A very good morning to you. Welcome to this very beautiful morning. I should say that again on the morning brief. I'm Jeffrey Ozam. I'm with my people, Kayode and Bugola.
Yes. Yeah, indeed. Hi, Jeffrey. There's no better time than now. A beautiful day to remind ourselves that we may have come on different ships, but we are on the same team now, and we build the nation together, regardless of our differences. Good morning and welcome. I am Bukola Koka.
As always, we're up bright and early. Welcome to Lagos. Yes, the city that never sleeps. And we hope that you are up to nothing but productivity and joy this morning. I am Kayode Okikele.
You know, I've been thinking about something. I had to grow into it at some point. I don't know what your perspective are on it. Sometimes it's difficult for people to mix with other people for different reasons. Maybe conviction, how they grew up, heritage, and all of that. But I had to learn that you must not like someone to work with a person as far as it's about productivity. Because sometimes you see people, they feel that they must like someone, whether in their offices or on a project, or in fact, they want to be friends all the time. You must not like someone to work with a person. You stay with the objective of that issue. And then, c'est fini, as they say. What language is that?
It's French.
It's French.
Oh, I just said.
It works, actually. And absolutely. Especially when you realize that you need people.
Exactly.
To achieve things. They say, oh, if you want to walk far or run far,
go together.
But if you want to do it fast, if you want to go fast sometimes, you have to do it together as well. Because that's when you now have division of labor, you have people pulling in their strengths. So what will take you maybe 20 hours to do, if you have people helping you, it'll take you 5 hours. So maybe you might want to tweak that saying and make it mandatory that we realize the role of people in everything that we do. So today you'd obviously meet with people in the bus. Yes, you meet with people. Of course, maybe not the people you want to meet with on a daily basis, but these are people you need, and we need to make the most of it. So are you going to solemnly agree with me this morning that we'll make the most of everybody we come across today? If not for the fact that you like them or otherwise, the fact that you want to achieve something today, because believe it or not, no man is an island.
Indeed.
Or no woman is an island.
Indeed, yeah. And you know, that's why everyone, regardless of our reservations about each other, must demonstrate a high degree of emotional intelligence. We must be sensitive to, you know, the character, disposition, mental disposition, strengths and weaknesses of, you know, our co-workers, you know, such that we can work with them regardless of who they present themselves to be, and, you know, set aside our differences, you know, just be sensitive to each other, such that we do not work in a toxic environment. You know, we don't have to be the same, and that's the beauty in diversity, embracing our differences such that we get to our final destinations eventually.
But the elephant in the room, just to say that it is even more beautiful when you work with people you love. And that's what we do on this show. We love ourselves. In case you're thinking, is a morning brief trying to say that Jeffrey doesn't like Bukola or Bukola doesn't like, no, we love ourselves. This is like the dream team right here. So we're hoping that you get to that phase where you get to work with people.
And that comes with getting on people's nerves sometimes. so let's be very clear. Sometimes you have to touch some nerves. The reason I have to raise that issue is because time and again, for almost 64, 65 years, or even more since our amalgamation, we've struggled as a nation to come together as a nation. We may be Nigeria, but attaining nationhood has been quite difficult for us as a country. When I watch the AMVCA, I watch these creatives on their nights. I'm just perplexed, excited with the level of diversity coming together. You can notice that it's all about the movie industry, or the music industry, or whatever it is they converge on that venue for when it comes to that space. Nobody's talking Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, and all of the elements on our fault lines and all of that. So it's important that as we evolve as a country, we're here, we're not going anywhere. Let's do the best we can to find the, you know, in between the lines on how we can come together. You are created as an individual, but you're put in a universe, and it was divine and for a reason. So let's do the best we can to make sure that we work together. We're going to get on our nerves sometimes. It happens because there's no way that human beings will come together. You're coming with different academic heritages, cultural heritages, all kinds of heritages. There will be clash. There's a book I read by Tom Jones called Managing for performance also. So they say the forming stage, the storming stage, they call it the norming stage, the performing stage, and the adjourning stage. So you come together, you form, and then you're going to have those conflicts between yourselves, and then you normalize a bit. That's when you start performing. So performance and excellence sometimes when it comes to a team comes at stage 4 before you decide to adjourn, depending on whether that project comes to an end or not. So let's take it easy. Nigeria is a beautiful country.
Absolutely.
Beautiful country.
Absolutely.
So,
A huge dose of telepathy at work today.
let's dig
It's a
deeper,
gift.
shall we? Jeffrey, let's unbox.
Yes, let's unbox what we have for you. Let's begin with this one, that the political crisis in Rivers State now borders perhaps on what you consider a constitutional dimension, given how both sides of the divide are refusing to back down and going on with what evokes more questions than answers in the quagmire. Our legal minds joins us to find our solution to this particular problem.
We hope that we get solutions. From there to Abuja, Akure, to Port Harcourt, members of organized labor are united, seeking a reversal on the recent hike in electricity tariff. On Monday, a picketing action took place nationwide at the NLC and DISCO offices. Now, will the regulators and players reconsider, and what options are left for labor to press home their demand? Let's unpack it together this morning.
Oh, lots of unpacking to do. Africa's biggest movie night witnessed the glitz, glamour, and the laurels, with stars converging on Lagos to condense a year under review with their amazing projects. Well, at the end, Breath of Life, which had originally taken a lot of breaths away, an emotional story of faith, guts, humanity, and compassion, went home with most of the coveted awards. But there were other winners of the night, whether or not they had the gongo, is it the plaque or what have you. So we look at that today.
We know you were not
Okay.
at the AMVCA, but we just might
You don't
consider
know. There
creating
were
another one for you.
disguises there, and some of us maybe didn't show, but we'll of course be breaking all of that down.
It's going to be an exciting show. So join us. We'll be back after this. Of course, we'll get to you with the top stories first. Join us again. Top on the brief this morning, all bets are perhaps off at this rate with the unending Rivers political crisis following a resolution by Governor Siminalayi Fubara to probe governance in the state. He says, with a continuous effort by his opponents to sabotage his government despite efforts to broker peace, he's left with no choice but to look backwards into activities of governance despite whose ox is God. Governor Fubara gave his position during the swearing-in of a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Dagogo Boroma, as the state's Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice after it was screened and confirmed by the Victor Okojombo-led House of Assembly at the Government House.
When I said that I had a reason for being patient, it was because I know that we are all from one family. And if we have a disagreement, no matter how bad it is, it should be resolved. But it has become very clear that this disagreement, there is no headway to it. And for a lot of reasons, there are very, very visible evidence that there is sabotage, deliberate attempt to sabotage this administration. For that reason, we have to move forward.
Yes.
And moving forward, if it means taking decisions that is going to hurt anybody, I'm happy that you're already a son before coming in. It means that you must have been a thorough man. It's not the one that while you're here, they now pay money to give you sand. When you become the son, the only thing you do is to sabotage government. Like I said, you will get your reward, not in next world, this world. Let me also say this. You have a big tax. As it is today, in the local palace, they said the jungle has matured. We will be setting a panel of inquiry to investigate the affair of governance.
Oh, those are very strong words. Jungle don't mature. That's how he said in the local palace. Let's move on now. Let's just backtrack a bit for a moment. When the Victor Okojumbo-led House of Assembly screened and confirmed Mr. Dagogo Iboroma as the State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Rivers State. During the screening of the nominee, Dagogo Iboroma pledged to uphold the rule of law and serve the state diligently, irrespective of the ministry will be deployed to. Present at that screening were principal officers and former members of the Rivers State House of Assembly.
Distinguished members, before we proceed, the leader, please move a motion for this auditorium and admin block, the Rivers State House, Government House, to be adopted as the hallowed chambers pursuant to the Executive Order RVSG 001-2023 for the temporary relocation of the sitting of the Rivers State House of Assembly.
On this note, may I move that this auditorium, so admin block, River State Government House, be adopted as the hallowed chamber of the River State House of Assembly. I so move.
Today, I hereby rise to second the motion ably passed by the leader of the House. I so second.
Well, the Attorney General did say the things he said about upholding the tenets of the rule of law. But let's move on now to other stories. The last 24 hours has been quite a busy one for organized labor, who are upset over the recent hike in electricity tariff. For them, there is only one way forward, a reversal of that directive. It was not just talk shop for the comrades as they hit the street, heading straight to the various offices of the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, and distribution companies discos nationwide for a picketing action. The presence of the NLC and TUC members at these offices hampered access to the premises as they insist on a reversal of the policy given the current economic challenges for workers.
NERC should change their own policy of increasing tariff. Unknown to some of us here, NERC's policy of increasing tariff is based on inflation and the value of the currency. So if NERC, with what they have done now, they have created inflation, they will still go back to increase tariff because of inflation, which they created. Can you see how people are benefiting from their own wickedness? Right. So, comrades, we are here to make this statement clear that we are not just saying don't increase tariff, don't increase tariff. You can't increase tariff for nothing. Nigeria should work with the movement, labor movement, to see how we can improve the power being generated today.
We have listened to you, we have listened to the concern of Nigerians, and will make adequate case and representation to the policy side on the issue of affordability of tariffs. The Commission has issued a number of orders on capping estimated bills by all discos, limiting how much they can bill you. But I think on a more on a better news for the Nigerian consumers is that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the presidential metering initiative, giving deadlines to meter all customers in Nigeria. Any distribution company that bills you above the caps issued by the Commission, report to our forum offices, report to our office here, and we'll do the needful.
Now, whilst the labor unions are giving a pushback on the tariff hike and perhaps to cushion the impact of the economic reforms, President Bola Tinubu has directed the mandatory procurement of the compressed natural gas powered vehicles, that's CNG, by all government ministries, departments, and agencies. The president says the transition to cleaner energy through CNG-enabled vehicles, which is believed to produce lower emissions, provides more affordable alternative for Nigerian energy consumers. The president, who gave the directive while addressing members of the Federal Executive Council, says his government will continue with the energy reforms initiated by his administration. It was also a busy day for the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 general election, who made a few stopovers visiting top political leaders of the People's Democratic Party in the nation's capital, Abuja. On his part, on his itinerary was a visit to the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Senate President Bukola Saraki, and former Jigawa State Governor Sule Lamido. In a statement by his spokesperson, Dr. Eunice Tanko, the visit stems from the state of the nation, with focus on how to reduce poverty in the country, especially in the north. The statement explains that the current situation with the vulnerable goes beyond issues of political class and affiliation. Let's now shift attention to election management ahead of the off-cycle elections in Edo and Ondo states, where the electoral umpire has now announced dates for continuous voter registration, that's the CVR. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says the CVR exercise in the two states is to enable eligible citizens who are not registered voters to do so, and this will take place simultaneously from Monday, May the 27th to Wednesday, June the 5th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily, including the weekend. The chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, disclosed this during a meeting with the leaders of political parties held at the Commission's headquarters in Abuja, as he advises parties to adhere strictly to the electoral guidelines as it sets May the 20th, 2024, as the deadline for political parties contesting in the Ondo governorship election to submit the names of their candidates.
Today's meeting will update party leaders on preparations for the Edo and Ondo governorship elections. As you are aware, the Edo State governorship election is holding in the next 4 months on Saturday, 21st September 2024, while the Ondo governorship election holds in the next 6 months on Saturday, 16th November 2024. Turning to Ondo State, political parties have just concluded their primaries. 18 political parties conducted primaries monitored by the Commission. I wish to remind you that parties have 1 week to the deadline for the nomination of candidates. As the elections in the two states approach, the Commission has decided to resume the continuous voter registration in the two states to enable eligible citizens who are not registered as voters to do so.
Let's now talk business. Data from the central bank shows that commercial lenders reduced loans to the 3 tiers of government by 73% to 19.59 trillion naira in March 2024 from 33.93 trillion naira in the previous month. Financial analysts attribute this to the government's rekindled interest in the fixed income market in March. The Debt Management Office had revealed that the federal government garnered a total of about 11 trillion naira from auctions, treasury bills, and savings bonds in 4 months. While yields on government securities are on the increase, it is still cheaper for the government to raise funds through treasury bills rather than borrowing from banks. It's now signed and sealed. Finidi George has been unveiled as the new head coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria by the Nigeria Football Federation, pledging their support, or full support I should say, to the former winger. The Football Federation signed a one-year contract with George, mandating the 53-year-old to qualify the three-time African champions for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. George has picked Daniel Amokachi and Benjamin James as his assistants. His first assignment will be the qualification game against Bafana of South Africa at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in Uyo. That will be taking place in June.
We'll support Finidi. We'll give him whatever he needed to work, and the issue of paying his salary will not be a problem by the grace of God. We are going to do our best to make sure that we support him.
I want to say I'm grateful to be standing here for this great opportunity given to me to manage the Super Eagles. I think it's not an easy job for anybody. For me, it's just to start working immediately, which I've been doing even before signing this contract.
Well, we wish him the very best, and all eyes on him right now. It's a good thing that we're signing a local coach. But those are the stories we've been tracking for you in the last 24 hours. I will shape our conversation for the program and the rest of the day. Hopefully, I'm being joined by, of course, Kaide.
Right here. It's great to see the unveiling of Finidi George.
Amazing.
By Nigeria to grow Nigeria. In this case, to
we
grow
came
the Nigerian team.
to grow.
So all the best to Finidi George. But let's turn our attention to what's going on in River State, Jeffrey. It's been making the news, and it's been on for months now. And it looks like each day comes with its own new drama, a new politicking. The latest one is the governor, as you said earlier on, saying that he will probe governance in River State. That has gotten a lot of people talking. So we'll begin with someone who's your nickname. Who has your name actually, but rather is your namesake, I should say. Name is Jeff Olisa 042, and this is like a letter to the governor of River State. It says, "Dear Governor Sim Fubara, as you are fighting your detractors, don't forget the primary purpose of government. Deliver good governance to the people at all costs, and that way you'll enjoy undiluted support come 2027. Ends this one by saying Godspeed.
Well, okay, part 7 says, I am not in support of this decision. It's becoming childish. This political shenanigans with Wike must stop. Fubara should deliver on the mandate given to him by the Rivers people. It should know that time is going and it should be working now.
But take a look at the angle the next user, Akon Ayomide 10, says he will indict himself too. He was the Accountant General of River State. He was declared wanted by the EFCC, and the then former governor of River State said to have covered him up in his government house, which didn't make him appear in his governorship campaign at all. Says that he's joking, but we saw him during the campaigns.
All right, King Sazi A says he can't probe Shinshin. Is it Shinshin? There's already a court judgment stopping the probe of past government of River State instituted by Dr. Peter Odili. All those ones are noise making. That's pigeon now. You should just enjoy all you can while it lasts.
Well, let's take one more on this, and it's coming from Samuel Okoli 15. Says probing Wike's 8-year tenure will be the best legacy Fubara will leave for those that will govern River State after him, because it's going to leave an open door of accountability, probity, and transparency, not only for himself but for others.
All right. We will go on now away from the issue of River State to this issue of the family bullied student slammed 500 millionaire suit on Abuja School. Remember that incident of that young lady that was slapped a couple of times, and it made news, and the school was shut down for like 3 days and all of that. So there's been an approach, I think, to the courts now to see what can come out of that whole issue. But this is what you're saying. Ajibola Aking says, this is huge. Let's see how the legal battle goes and if the school opts for out-of-court settlement.
I know that we discussed this extensively,
yes,
and we looked for ways to empower school owners, administrators, teachers, even parents particularly, because parents were big in that one, and the rest on how to go about this. But this next user, Jalasho_Adini, says, or before that, let's take Prince Demlak. Prince Demlak has the one, says, I can't be paying a huge amount of money in school where my child's safety will not be their first priority. So, yeah, that's what this user has to say.
And then Jolly says, that's counterproductive. The mother of the victim was also seen on TV beating is it bullier now? I don't know whether there's a word like
it was
that.
said to be the aunt of
the aunt, actually. It's not the
heard.
mother. I think this should be settled out of court, probably.
So will we be seeing what? Let me take the next one. Northerner Zero says, why will they sue the school? Is it the school staff that bullied the girl? Didn't the girl's aunt slap the girl who bullied their daughter? The school, and that's what we referenced earlier on.
All right. Shagwa Bin says, that's the way to go. This will make schools sit up. If we have been taking all these agencies and institutions to court, maybe Nigeria would have been a better place by now.
All right, so we'll see how that plays out. The family of the girl that was bullied suing the school for 500 million naira. Away from that, let's talk about power. Yes, power. And we're not even talking about the protests just yet that we saw yesterday with Labour, NLC, and TUC across NERC and DISCOs. This is about the IMF asking the federal government to stop electricity subsidy. I know it was news to a lot of people when they first heard that, oh, the government actually pays subsidy on electricity. Yes, it does, but the IMF is saying, take it out. The minister had said that it was reduced, or it's been reduced, or to an extent removed, but apparently not totally. So what do you have to say about this latest advice from the IMF? Well, Idara Light says, the president should understand that wealth is not money, but making things abundant and cheap. So rather than all these financial manipulations, it says, focus on producing food, petrol, and electricity to where they are abundant but affordable. That mindset should guide all economic policies. Okay.
All right, this person, quite a complicated name, but let's leave it at Game Point 35. They're directly or indirectly telling the government to increase tariff. I haven't seen anything that looks like electricity subsidy. Are you subsidizing what you're not supplying to customers? In some areas for months, there's no power. A sector that was privatized, what are they subsidizing? I guess that's what we wanted to say.
Jeffrey, you need to see this one from the next user. Sir, MC Awesome sees this as a command, actually, and that's in the last line of the tweet that was put up by the user. But starts by saying, who goes a borrowing, goes a sorrowing. As long as government can harness the tremendous resources at our disposal, believes that the government will continue to beg for subvention, and that's where you see that we'll never stop receiving these commands.
Yes, you can understand the sentiment of Nigerians, given what happened in 1986 with the structural adjustment program and what we've seen this adjustment program do to other economies that primarily they say is to taper inflation in the long run. So they privatize all these assets and liberalize trade. But social impact is quite difficult to manage for a country like ours. And for the record, even when they put out those social cushioning policies, it really doesn't move the needle. So Nigerians generally, with SAP of 86, we have the IMF adoption hesitancy trauma most of the time when it comes to this thing. So, but it's important to put your views out there. It's all for us to have this conversation and to make sure. But he made a strong point.
Right.
If you don't go borrow, nobody's going to give you a condition on how you want to run your government. So, because some people believe that the Bretton Woods institutions are the puppets of the global north. So it's an argument that can go back and forth. So, but are they not? We're going to look for that later on. Electricity tariff. Can you have the next one?
Oh, yes. So that's the other one about the protests. Labor unions shutting down Jos, Ibadan, Port Harcourt, discos. So the first user, B Family, says, the units of kilowatt hour for what I used to pay for at same cost has reduced by almost 40%. You can say that again. I'm not in Band A, but Band E. So tariffs increase have been worked for all electricity consumers or customers, he says, not for only Band A. So would need to follow this because no announcement was made for all the other bands.
Yes. So
NLC,
just Band A.
Exactly. So let us, if you can just send us a message, B Familoni, to just reach out. You can do that on our WhatsApp lines, which you see on the screen. Let us follow up on that and see what the case is, because that should not be the case.
Philip Neri Michael says, good move, Labour. That wicked tariff hike has to be reversed immediately. All right, big support for the Labour Union.
Oh, yes. This next one is also another support from Philip Neri Mike, says, good move, Labour. That's okay.
I've read that.
You took that already.
I think we're going to the next one.
Yes.
Go to the next one, Kyle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's a statement from the Federal Executive Council meeting, President Bola Tinubu banning the purchase of petrol-dependent vehicles. Yes, so it came out yesterday. But let's take a look at what you say about this first. And this first one is from DK, with a lot of figures, says, you just don't ban things which you don't really produce in large quantities, which are in demand. This will trigger an inflation in the price of cars.
All right, Stanley Chika says, we should be buying diesel, 8,200 per liter diesel, that's for the car. Is that one cheaper, or we should go for electric car when dollar is how much to naira? I hope this is fake news. So basically, the president did not say ban. It instructed that all of the vehicles for, I think, ministries, department and agencies should now be CNG powered.
So that's the clarification.
Yes, they want to start from home before they come to all of us. Those of them are the seat of power. And we hope that the fleets of the presidents also, maybe some of the ministers, we should see, that's the truth. When Nigerians see you lead by example, it's easier to, achieve results. But when you say one thing and you do the other, you're not going to get any result. That's the truth in any form of leadership. So it's great to see the president say ministries, departments, and agencies at the federal level at least should be using CNG vehicles. So if you work there, please look out for those vehicles. And those of you who monitor those spaces, and those of us who monitor them, will also look out to really see whether they do it or not, or it's just talk shop.
So let's step back again. We put this out just to clear the air. Some people had gone with some of the reports, they saw that it's a ban. It's not for you, it's for the MDAs who are trying to purchase new vehicles. But two issues people have raised. One, how about converting the already existent vehicles as well? Right, because we have
to be hybrid, right?
To be CNG powered as well, instead of looking to purchase new ones, because obviously you still be buying petrol for the old ones. That's on the one hand. So are we going to be seeing the MDAs convert the current vehicles they use and all of that? Secondly is the process of this. How long will this take really to start shopping for CNG powered vehicles? It's a lot, but it needs to be broken down properly. When is this going to start? Does that mean that even the president's fleet, as you said, will also be using CNG-powered vehicles? It's important, but let's give kudos to government, because this is a point we've raised time and again. We've had the special assistant on that particular initiative on our show, and we've asked, will the government be leading on this? So it's good to see the government at least listening to all of our advocacy and questions raised about this matter.
But what people are also saying is that there are too many things moving at the same time. The government may need to slow down a bit at some point, because the fundamentals, what they call the legacy fundamentals, are not right yet for our country. The basics are not right yet. So some of these things that we're supposed, those policies are supposed to be great policies, but because the fundamentals are not right, that's why we're struggling as a country. Light, transportation, security, basic fundamentals that should drive a society. We don't have it working, plus other technical ones that I may not want to mention. So things like CNG and all of this supposed to have been there before this policy. So that's why it looks confusing, convoluted, and complicated.
Yes, the stations where you buy the CNG from. We understand that some states only one that you'll find there, or maybe two. So
I think the government should really focus. The primary, I think, if there is a counsel to the administration of our president, is the fact that this government should be big on productivity and attract FDIs. We haven't seen much in that direction. We've seen a lot of FPIs, not FDIs, which is what will provide the jobs at the end of the day. If productivity is low, as it is right now, and even divestment of companies, no matter what they do, it will not work. That's the simple truth.
Yeah, so we keep our eyes on these policies. We hope it's not just put it out there and then everybody forgets about it. 2 years' time, you'd be like, oh, the government said we're meant to be seeing CNG-powered vehicles. So you and I would ensure that we keep an eye on this one. And that's what we're all about right here on The Morning Brief, Jeff.
Yes, and that's all from what we've been, reading on X right here. But keep it coming, whether it's on X or on our WhatsApp. Just keep those messages. We'll take them as much as possible. But we'll switch gears now. We'll take this break. When we come back, we'll get to the first conversation for the day. Join us again.
To you this afternoon. These traditional and political leaders from Bayelsa State are here on a courtesy visit to Governor Similayi Fubara at the River State Government House in Port Harcourt. The delegation, led by a former governor of Bayelsa State and current Senator Seriake Dixon, includes notable figures such as the first military governor of Old River State and traditional ruler of Tuan Brass, Alfred Dete Spiff, as well as the chairman of the Bayelsa Council of Traditional Rulers, along with several other traditional rulers, former state and national assembly members, former commissioners, and other political leaders. The leader of the delegation says the visit is on two grounds: to call for an end to the political crisis in River State and seek an improved relationship between Bayelsa and River State that once existed as one state.
The creation of Bayelsa State out of Old River State was not and should not be made to see as if it's a severance of the relationship between our people. It is not a war of Jericho, of division, hatred, and acrimony between our people. But it's a move which, well utilized, will accelerate our development and national stake.
Acknowledging the concern of his neighbors, Governor Fubara explains how much restraint he's exercised since the crisis began in the state. He acknowledges the contributions of his predecessor and Minister of the FCT, Mr. Nyesom Wike, to his emergence as governor, but promises not to worship any man.
The young people, those group of men who claim that are assembly members, are not assembly members. They are not existing. I want it to be on record. I accepted that peace accord to give them a floating. That's the truth. There was nothing in that peace accord that's a constitutional issue. It's a political solution to a problem. I want you to see the sacrifice I've made in the cause of allowing peace to be in our state. I can say here with all amount of boldness, I've never called any policeman anywhere to go and harass anybody. I've never gone anywhere to do anything against anybody. But what happens to people that are supporting me? They are being harassed. They are being detained. There is no week that somebody doesn't come here with one letter of invitation for trump of charges and all those things.
On the relationship between both states, Governor Fubara condemns the crisis that had existed before he became governor.
We were separated because of political purposes to expand development, but we need to be united so that the economy of these two states will grow. There's no need for us to have any arguments over assets. There's no need for us to have any disagreement over issues of who owns this or who doesn't own that. One way or the other, we're even interrelated. That is the truth.
It is expected that this visit and other efforts will help strengthen the bond of unity between the two states.
Welcome back to the program. And governance and politics in River State gets our attention yet again. The jungle has matured. Strong words from Governor Sim Fubara yesterday when he announced the decision of his administration to probe governance in River State. And your guess is as good as mine. The question would naturally be, what does this mean for the political stability in River State? How would the other party respond? But again, more importantly, perhaps what we should be scrutinizing now is the judicial intervention, that arm of government that we look to interpret the actions of the parties in the Rivers political feud in the last couple of months. And joining us to help us understand this is Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Norison Quakers. Mr. Quakers, thank you so much for joining us on the Morning Brief.
Good morning. It's indeed my pleasure to be part of this discourse. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Let's start with the Port Harcourt, the court order issued by the Port Harcourt High Court restraining the 25th defendants, that will be the pro-Wike lawmakers, from parading themselves as lawmakers of the River State Assembly. Now, if you tie that to the Federal High Court order restraining Governor of River State, Simlai Fubara, from preventing the State House of Assembly members from carrying out their statutory functions, how do you interpret these contradicting court orders from different courts of law that studied the same books?
Thank you so much. You see, first of all, we must also understand the context. What is going on in River State is nothing but the theater of the absurd. It's a comedy of errors. Unfortunately, no one has actually stepped forward to cause the crisis to cease. Now, what do I mean by this? The Constitution is very, very clear. The provisions of the Constitution are sacrosanct. Section 1, sub 1 says the Constitution is supreme and has binding authority on all persons and authority. Now, if we go by that, and all these gladiators, all these political actors were made to swear to an oath of allegiance, and that oath of allegiance is to the state, is to the country, and not to any individual. And part of it is that the provisions of the Constitution will be upheld without more. Now, if we now look at it in that context, we now ask ourselves, right, what has transpired in River State? Is it within the ambit of the Constitution? So we start first by understanding what really went wrong. So you had 27 lawmakers who defected from the political platform or the political party that gave them tickets to run for elective office, and they won. Now, the Constitution now says in section 109, if you read the entire section, particularly sub 1 and G, that where this happens, you lose your seat. Now, 2 now says that the Speaker will have recourse to sub 1 of section 109. In other words, he will receive and declare the seats as being vacant. Now, question is, at the time this transpired, was there a Speaker of the River State House of Assembly? Now, because of the number that one could say were left behind after the 27 defected, an individual emerged to say he is now the Speaker and now declared the seat vacant. And this was communicated to the Independent National Electoral Commission. Now, as at this time, it is taken that the constitutional provision has kicked in. But one thing that I have come to realize is that the way the provision is couched, incidentally, I have it before me, it says from 109 sub 1, a member of a House of Assembly shall vacate his seat in the House if G now say being a person whose election to the House of Assembly was sponsored by a political party, he becomes a member of another political party before the expiration of the period for which that House was elected, provided that his membership of the latter political party is not as a result of a division in the political party of which he was previously or a member of a merger of 2 or more of political parties or factions by one of which he was previously sponsored. Or so you find this constitutional provision spelled out clearly. Now, it's clear when you look at 1091, it says a member of a house shall vacate his seat. In other words, the decision to vacate is imposed on the individual. All right. Now, where this has happened, and the Speaker has also taken the step, the question that would then now beg for answer is whether this constitutional provision has kicked in. The answer is yes. Now, back to your question, you have a Federal High Court order restraining these persons from parading themselves as members of the House. Rightly so. Rightly so. Now, you also have another provision, another decision of the court restraining the governor from tampering or otherwise doing anything that will prejudice or infract on their constitutional role as legislators. Now, question is, has the court been furnished with any evidence that the governor has interfered with the performance of their constitutional duty? For now, what is paramount is to interpret whether these 27 members have lost their seats in the River State House of Assembly. Incidentally, like I keep saying, the challenge we have is not in the want of rules, laws, and regulations. This same issue had happened a while back in Abegude and Ondo State House of Assembly, right? Where the Supreme Court has made this pronouncement. Now, as opposed to parliamentary system where you can carpet cross, what we have here is when a political party sponsors you, so it's a constitutional provision. So is it provided for in the Constitution? I just read it to you now. And now this has been subjected to judicial interpretation, and the court has held all the way to the Supreme Court that when you do that, automatically you lose your seat. And it shouldn't be an issue for any political discourse because it's an issue of law, right? So the question is whether the facts have changed from Abegude's decision. Now, there have been a number of other cases in relation to this because as a people, we find it very difficult to adhere strictly to rules and regulations. So as far as I'm concerned, until the governor is found to have done a constitutional infraction in relation to interfering with the function of their legislative duties, I recall, at least from the news, that he paid a visit to the House of Assembly of the state.
But it would seem that the governor has indeed breached the order of the Federal High Court in Abuja by relocating the functions of the State Assembly to the government house. Isn't that the case here?
Yes, I'm coming to that. That is a major constitutional infraction. And I think the governor should also be advised and be called to order, right? Now, because of the kind of people that we are, right, you have the constitution that delimits and empowers. You have 3 tiers of government, all right? One government is mutually, what you could say, exclusive in terms of separation of powers. No single government should, or an arm of government should dictate to the other arm how to function or how to work. And incidentally, as far as the law is concerned, you have Section 4 that confers constitutional powers to the legislature. You have 5 that confers executive powers to the executive. And then you have 6 that confers judicial powers to the judiciary. So you can see how exclusive these powers are. And then to a large extent, they are also interdependent. Now, the Constitution has a provision for where the legislative function or work should be performed. And this you will find, you see, like I keep saying, there's nothing new under the sun as far as Nigeria is concerned. You have Inokojo and Adeleke, where this issue was also laid to rest, even by the Supreme Court, that there's a place designated for the performance of legislative duties. And you cannot go outside of that. Now, if you look at section, I think it's 108, yes, section 108 of the Constitution, where it talks about where the governor can meet with the House of Assembly, it talks about a designated place. So the question is, where is the designated place? You have built a structure. It's not for you to now ask them to come and meet in the government house or the hall provided for your own use in the government house for the legislative function. It just shows that you're in control of the House of Assembly of the state, and that cannot happen. No matter what is going on, the court has stepped in. Let the court perform its duty. But again, you always have political conspiration, moral conspiration, religious conspiration, and a number of other things to now determine constitutional provision. And so long as we begin to deploy political solutions to legal problems, we'll continue to have this legal crisis and legal problems.
Let me say,
just digress a bit. Sometime back, our immediate past president committed several constitutional breaches. He was never called to order. The House, the National Assembly at that time looked the other way. And so it has been a trend. If the incumbent also begins to commit constitutional breaches, nothing will happen. The apples will fall.
All right, let us say,
it's also smart.
apparently, there's a problem with the rule of law in our country, which we were trying to, excuse me, we're trying to address here. But I want to put things in perspective and get your legal position on this, so that we're clear on who really is a member of the House of Assembly as far as Rivers State is concerned. So a gentleman had died, I think, from the Ogoni axis. So there were 32, now remaining 31. Ehie Edison is now the chief of staff. He resigned his position, so he's no longer a member of the House. So there are 30. Before all of the at the beginning of this feud, Ehiye and others were suspended. And then this gentleman later defected to the APC, which, according to as you've interpreted 1059 or 1G of the Constitution, they've lost their seat. So do we really have a legislature in Rivers State? Based on my explanation.
Okay. Now, thank you so much for that question. Do we have a legislative house in Rivers State? The answer is yes, we do. You know, incidentally, when you x-ray this provision, what it talks about is once you defect, so those who are defected automatically have lost their seats in relation to the Abegundis case that I cited earlier. So the Supreme Court has already made a pronouncement on this. So they've lost their seat. Now the remainder will now constitute the House of Assembly of the State. What INEC
let us say, if I may button, I did say that this remainder were suspended by the people who later defected. That's where I started from.
No, so look at it this way. At the time they were suspended, were they still members of the House of Assembly of the State? At the time they were suspended. The people who suspended them, were they still members of the House of Assembly of the State? The answer is no. So you cannot have, and you see the beauty of all of this, if this constitutional crisis continues, right, and then it leads to some sort of conflagration in Rivers State, the president has powers vested in him under Section 305 to declare a state of emergency. And that is what they need to avoid in Rivers State, because the president has that power to do so. And the National Assembly will take over the legislative function of the House of Assembly of the State. It's all provided for in the Constitution. It happened some years back in Plateau State when Joshua Dari was governor of the state. And so we should be very careful. The Constitution is very clear and apt. And if there are crises and you have submitted it to the court, it's prejudicial and an affront for you to embark on self-help exercise, which is what is going on in Rivers State. It's even wrong in the first place, right, that after this whole process has emerged, and one thing that they tricked me was Edison Ehiye, if my memory is not failing me, who emerged through that process as the new speaker, made that declaration in conformity or in compliance with Section 109 G in relation to sub 2. All right, by declaring the seats of the people that defected as vacant. Now, along the line, Edison Ehiye resigned his speakership and was then now appointed as, I think, whether chief of staff to the governor of the state. Now, question is, at the time he left, was there an election that was organized resulting in, I think it's Jumbo, so the new person who is there, to have emerged through that process? Suddenly, just last week, Jumbo emerges as the new speaker and says that it is Ehiye handed over to him. When did this take place? And that's why I said it's a theater of the absurd and it's ridiculous.
Right, Senior Advocate, let me just follow up with the point you made, because it's been an option on the table, but it appears as though everyone is trying to avoid it. And we've seen that there may be some even proposal for what may be that possibility, which is the takeover of sort. But I just want to know, is the situation, has it gotten to the extent to which all of them cannot come back and say, let's fix it, such that the basic or the most plausible option now to resolve this will be the declaration of a state of emergency? And what will that imply? Will that really solve the situation or be creating another problem entirely?
Well, a declaration of a state of emergency, because it simply means that the federal might has been called to bear. It means the federal government has taken over the functions of the state. Mind you, even the governor too will go where a state of emergency is declared. He cannot continue to function as governor of the state. It means the federal level, at the federal level, an attorney will be appointed for Rivers State. And then the National Assembly will take over the legislative function of Rivers State. And I'm saying that where conflagration occurs, where crisis occur beyond monumental dimension or frightening dimension, the federal government cannot sit back, because the president also has a duty to ensure that there is peace order and good governance is also in Rivers State beyond the federal level. Now that's one level. But the other thing is, can there be a solution to this crisis? And absolutely yes. What the defected legislators can do is to simply denounce their already pronouncement that they have defected to APC. So now simply say, oh, we're sorry, we're actually members of PDP, and then go back. All of this will be addressed. But the question is, because of the distrust that is existing, can the governor now trust that these people were defected? Because all of this is actually happening because the governor also wants to protect his office from encroachment, from being impeached. That's why this is going on. And it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We have reduced politics to brigandage. And this trend has to be curtailed. We can't continue like this as a country and as a people. We can't continue.
I just want to quickly ask this. And again, yes. Them saying they're now back in the PDP, I mean, it's just quite funny, really, if that is something that should be accepted yet again, because it just looks like as though you're using the mandate of the people to play ping pong. One moment you're here and there. But again, that's the situation we have on our hands. But I'd like you to speak to something the governor said yesterday, you may have heard, where he was swearing in the new Attorney General for the state, and was saying that, well, it looks like you are a good son because you look like you've done your hard work. It's not like you paid to become a senior advocate of Nigeria. And that really hit a nerve for me. You're a senior advocate of Nigeria. I don't know if you heard that statement. Is it a thing that people pay to become senior advocate of Nigeria? How do you respond to that? Because from what we've heard, it's meant to be on merit.
Again, like I said, what is going on in Rivers State is nothing but something that any discerning mind should sorrow over. It's quite painful. Now, apart from that, did you also listen to the Attorney General when he was speaking? He said that he's married to one single wife. All right. And so you ask yourself, you have an Attorney General now in the state who is making that in his introductory speech, and he is introducing himself as a man that is married to one single wife. Is it really an issue, or is it about competence? Is it about delivery of the job? You are the Attorney General. You're the Chief Law Officer of the state. You have to ensure that there are no constitutional breaches. You see, if there is, for instance, a constitutional breach, the current Attorney General who has been sworn in, is he one that can walk away? In the history of this country, I just knew just a few individuals who have done that. And incidentally, most of them are actually from Ogun State. Mr. Wemimo Ogun, the SAN, and then one chap who I've forgotten his name. They walked away when they realized that they couldn't function well with their chief executive. They walked away. Now, how many attorney generals will see constitutional infraction, bare-faced constitutional infraction, and simply say, look, Mr. Governor, I cannot work with you because my responsibility, because he's an attorney general wears two caps. He's the commissioner for justice and attorney general of the state. So he functions both as advisor to the government and also to ensure that justice at the end of the day prevails in the state. Now, back to what you also said. Quite frankly, I find it absurd that the speaker will say, oh, he's a senior advocate who earned his senior advocacy and that he didn't pay for it. I mean, I find that absurd. I don't know where he got his facts from. One thing is clear. Before you can become a senior advocate, the process is tortuous and quite demanding. Quite demanding. I've been a senior advocate now going to about 14 years, and I can say to you, it's not easy. They interview all the senior advocates that you find around today went through a process. You have the Legal Practitioner Privileges Committee that will x-ray, examine, and question. If you don't deserve it, you won't get it. You will not be conferred with the rank. And if you misbehave, you can also be debarred. You can also lose your certificate. We know some senior advocates that were dealt with by the Legal Practitioners Privileges Committee. It's a privilege, and it can be withdrawn. So I don't know where he got all this from. And it's just shameful. So you can see the sort of characters we have in politics. It's really, really shameful.
The question is,
they look at the governor himself saying that something about jungle. I mean, come on. In this, how can you, an executive of the state, use such words or phrases? Are you declaring war on your own state or perceived enemies? Do you want to throw the state into crisis because of politics? It's quite shameful. It's quite shameful. Unfortunately, that's the country that we are in. That's the country we're in.
Well, we hope that it doesn't degenerate further. But more importantly now, if you look at the contradicting court judgments, many would say it's not, what's happening is not far-fetched. The one from the Port Harcourt Division, which is in Rivers State, and the one from, the Federal High Court in the FCT, many would say that, it leaves very little for us to wonder where the orders are coming from. So can you rule out the manipulation of the judiciary by politicians in all of this?
You see, like I said earlier, there's nothing that is happening in this country that has not been pronounced upon by the judiciary itself, that have not been tested in court. I recall, I think it was Justice Nikitobi, JSC of blessed memory, in Buhari, and I think what Obasanjo also, if my memory is not failing me, where he said, in as much as judges can, they must keep politicians away from the hallowed chambers of justice. Allowing them to come in is to pollute the stream of justice. Now, a situation where I recall my good friend and brother, Professor Aslem Modnikalo, one of the fiery advocates that we have, said that the appointment process must also be visited. Politicians interfere in the appointment of judicial officers. And if you have been involved in the appointment of a judicial officer, when you have a legal matter, what do you expect? I mean, they're also human beings. And so we need to revisit the selection process of judicial officers. It is bad. And I remember Nikitobi said, once you allow them to come in, the stream of justice will be polluted. And that's sometimes what you see here. You find conflicting judgments of course. It's absurd. And it cannot continue. NJC has also stepped in, and that I know, because there's a directive of the National Judicial Council. Once a complaint is lodged and it is investigated, any judge that is found culpable will be shown the way out. And in fairness, the NJC has done something in that regard. But I think we need to do a lot more about the selection process. The Nigerian public, for instance, must have one or two things to say. Right? For instance, before anyone can qualify and be elevated or appointed as a senior advocate of Nigeria, the Nigerian public is first informed. A list is published for your comments. So if you find anyone who is not deserving or has conducted himself in a way that you can consider to be unethical, you will write to the Legal Practitioner Privileges Committee that this person is not worth it, is not suitable. And some people have been disqualified on account of this. So perhaps we also need to do that for the appointment of judicial officers. Once you see the list, send it to the public. Let their names be published, that these following persons have been listed for appointment to the bench. If you have any comments concerning their suitability, by all means, write to the National Judicial Council why these persons are not deserving. The Nigerian Bar Association is also involved, but unfortunately, there are a lot of things going on in our system that we cannot continue to have it this way. If not, the time will come. We will have no Nigeria.
All right, let us see if I may comment as we begin to wind down. Just a quick question you can answer just in about a minute. There's a lot of legalese, and I'm happy you mentioned the fact that even the judiciary has some questions to answer when it comes to all of this interim, injunction, ex parte, all of the names that are being called. But what is the constitutional solution to the issue in Rivers State? It's not new. Remember before the Amechi tenure, it happened as well when Telemaba Makri was to be impeached by 5 individuals, and the House of Reps had to almost invoke Section 11 of the Constitution to take over their legislative function. We're getting there if we're not careful. What is the way forward?
The way forward is to simply adhere strictly to the provisions of the Constitution. But unfortunately, the Constitution can only be given life. It's a living organism, by our belief and faith in that piece of paper. No matter how inelegantly drafted the constitution will appear, the fact is it can only work if we believe that it must work. Unfortunately, we have a general attitude of circumventing the provisions of the constitution. For instance, the political solution that the president entered into with the governor and the other political gladiators, as far as I'm concerned, it is indeed unconstitutional, but it's stepped in. It is for anyone to, because that document is not enforceable in law. That document is not. So you cannot have a political solution to a legal problem. The only way it can work is let the judiciary also perform its function. So if you find a judge who has been compromised by virtue of either his ruling or his conduct, there's also the National Judicial Council that this matter can be reported to. There are also review mechanisms. One of our former judges of the Lagos State High Court, Justice Kessington of blessed memory, he said something that struck me once. He said the Constitution has no provision for reporting judges to any. If you find a judgment of a court that you're not comfortable with, there's a procedure that the Constitution recognizes, and that is for you to lodge your appeal. Your appeal can go as far as the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, even that process now is also being questioned because of political interference. If you stay away and you don't get involved, then the Constitution will continue to move and guide us. What is the essence of law? It's an instrument of social engineering for us to have a perfect, not at least near a perfect society. But unfortunately, the law itself has been circumvented. So it becomes very, very increasingly difficult to now have a smooth sail in these murky waters of politics in Nigeria.
Yeah, quite a number of propositions that you have put forward that we can reflect on, hopefully, and the coming days will be quite telling as far as River State politics is concerned. We want to thank you very much, Mr. Norrison Quaker, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, for your time and contribution on the program. Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Now, from the legal implications of happenings in River State, we move to labor issues and how they affect you, particularly with regards to the increase in electricity tariff and the NLC's picketing of discos and the NERC offices across the country. Join us again after this break when we begin that conversation. We'll be right back.
Àwọn tó ní wá lára bàbá ní wá lára o. Àwọn tó ní wá lára bàbá ní wá lára o. Ní wá lára bàbá. Ní wá lára o.
Well, as you can see, it was a busy day for Labour yesterday as they picketed the NERC offices nationwide, as well as discos, essentially against the hike in tariff for electricity. You heard the NLC president there, or earlier on, speaking about the tariffs and why they are protesting. But let's bring him in now on the show to shed more light on the reason for that protest. Perhaps if there's been some sort of outcome to it. We're joined by Comrade Joe Ajero, NLC President. He joins us virtually on the show this morning. Good morning, Comrade Ajero. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Morning, thank you.
Well, a lot of people saw that protest across the country in their states and all for the NERC and the distribution companies. So let me begin from the end. Has there been any reaction or any concrete response from government saying, we've heard you, we see you, and this is what we're going to do about your requests?
Well, thank you very much. We were in NAC yesterday, and luckily enough, we got the chairman of the Electoral Commission to talk with us. same in Power Ministry, and the Permanent Secretary spoke that they can't just stand up there and say they have reversed, that they were going to get across to the appropriate authorities, and then a matter of days and weeks get back to us. In the case of PAMSEC, Ministry of Power, it was clear that they have sent out letters. Us have not seen their letters of invitation for a meeting next week. So we'll wait for it and know how further to engage them.
So are you giving government an ultimatum to reduce the tariff? There's been some slight reduction earlier on, but are you giving a target to government saying by this time you ought to have reduced it so we know what we're working with here?
But this issue of, if we go into the politics of reduction, which is what they have played out, if you want, they reduce about 18 naira 20 kobo from it. So they only want us to say, okay, we have reduced it by maybe 20 naira or 10 naira. No, there is usually a structure. No, if you have vast tariff methodology and structuring, you have to factor in all other factors, including consultation. Consultation with stakeholders has to be enriched. And then you equally look at the purchasing power of individuals who are to pay that money. You equally look at the energy source, because if the tariff is being structured based on gas, and Nigeria has gas source and hydro source all over the world, electricity generated through renewable energy like hydro are very cheap. So the NEC cannot continue to deceive Nigerians on the issue of fossil oil, fossil fuel, with the cost is high, which is gas, as if it is only thermal stations that we have in the country. So we have to look at the model, look at what they are offering. And these are issues that we have, and this is must happen before tariff increase. It's not reduction after tariff increase. So we have to look at it holistically. At least some of us have little knowledge in that field.
Well, Comrade, how satisfactory is the position of the chairman of the NERC during the picketing yesterday that there is a presidential initiative on metering for all Nigerians, which has set a target date? Particularly, does the NLC have a structure to ensure that indeed this metering program is conducted such that Nigerians will stop being slammed estimated billing?
Well, that is almost a polemic. President Obasanjo came up with that policy, and we have companies like Z-Glasses in Lagos and Ikeja. I think by that time about 3 billion naira provision was made. I wouldn't know whether that money was released to them or not. Then President Buhari, in his metering initiative policy, I served in the committee, with Festus Keyamo and then the Minister of State Power then, as members, where they had a policy of providing 6 million meters, for the country. Until President Buhari left office, we moved around, even looking at domestic companies that produce meter, Momos and other companies. We visited them, and even they realized that these local companies can provide the needed meters for this country. And between that time and now, that didn't happen. So if I'm hearing now that there's a presidential initiative on metering and provision of meters for people, I still look at it from what is happening or what has happened before now. So unless there's any concrete assurance, that this one now will not be like the others, then I will be grateful to it. However, I think that might be based on partnership with the government and the discourse, because every company determines, or produces their own metering gadget. Every company in the world, even those that sell that in the market, they provide their own costs. So I wouldn't know whether it's the federal government part of their own grant or subsidy to the districts that are providing these meters. But whichever way, I think there's need for Nigerians to have meter. And providing meter is not rocket science. Countries like India, you can walk into a shop and buy a meter. So I wouldn't know why Nigeria's case would be a different thing.
Conrad, I'm happy that although you're the NLC president, but that's your sector, the electricity sector, so you have a lot of knowledge in that direction. We know that we have produced slightly over 5,000 megawatts in history, maybe not up to 6, despite the over 10,000 or 13,000 megawatts we have installed. Now, I said that to ask you this particular question on, let's look at it in details. The minister has said that if we don't remove subsidy, we may be in trouble in the future. So let's talk about funding and viability. Some are saying that if this hike is not put in place or this review is not put in place, we may not be able to attract the right investors to be able to sustain the power sector. Is that what you see from the point of someone who plays in that sector, not necessarily NLC president?
Well, I know that the sector is capital intensive. I'm equally aware that policies like privatization in countries where they have taken place, certain things were done first. There is no country in the world where the private sector, developed their power sector. No country. Because of the cost-intensive nature of that sector. And that was why when the federal government decided to privatize with 4,000 megawatts, in fact, then it wasn't up to 4,000. It was President Yar'Adua that said, no, let's delay this process for about 3 years to enable us to have this product available. And if you check anybody who's an expert in energy, they will tell you that you have to match the issue of availability, accessibility before you talk of even affordability. Now, they now say they are bringing in investors. Unfortunately, the investors they brought in the first instance, and I say this without apology, are not the people that were the right investors, with the technical competence, with managerial ability, and who are to attract foreign direct investment. So you can see that after 12 years of privatizing the sector, no investment is coming into the sector. Now, as no investment is coming to the sector, that brought us back to where we were before, when we said that the current no private sector can even invest in the power sector on even 10 years return on investment. So what percentage of return on investment are you going to invest and wait for about 15 years? And that's the nature of the power sector. And that is why all over the world, the states drive the process of developing the sector. After that, post-industrialization, you can now talk of managing the sector. Not that you call maybe Mr. Ajero to generate electricity and distribute and recoup his investment within 4 years, 5 years is not possible. That is the nature of the sector. And the earlier we realize it, the better. And not to just transfer the burden on the poor masses, especially a country that is not highly industrialized, and you depend on just people who are using it for electric bulb or for cooking or for taking their beds. So I think there is need for us to look at, the state withdrawal from the sector and the time they did, whether it was right, and what do we do in this material instance. And if, apart from withdrawal, the state has continued, and I'm talking of the Nigerian state, has continued to subsidize the sector up to now. If you watch, the sector was sold at about 400 billion. And Nigerian state has invested almost 2 trillion in that sector. So why did you sell it in the first instance if you are going to subsidize another man's business? These are issues that are open for further discussion so that we can find the right way, to go and the right path to follow.
Well, it looks like at this point, Labour is fighting, different battles on different fronts. So that today or yesterday we saw the picketing. Perhaps tomorrow we'll see Labour's push for a new minimum wage. And every other day we hear Labour talking about the cost of living, inflation, and seeking better welfare for workers. So different battles really for Labour to fight. But let's sit back and just sort of analyze the scale of preference for Labour in this. So if you want the federal government to bring down the tariff of electricity in the country, the government has said, well, that would basically mean returning the subsidies in large scale, even though we understand that there's still some sort of subsidy anyway, but returning it in large scale. Again, you're asking for an increase in minimum wage. So if government is also subsidizing electricity, where will they get money for the minimum wage to increase to, I don't know what the agreement will be eventually. If it's 615,000, well and good. Where do you expect government to get that money from? there's also the trying to fight inflation, invest in infrastructure, and the rest. So what is the scale of preference for Labour as you approach these demands?
Yeah, let's separate this, to the extent that the power sector, before privatization, I didn't hear of any subsidy, not even 10 million subsidy. And then post-privatization, and we are now hearing of government subsidizing it in trillions. The issue is that where did the issue of subsidy come in? It's important we look at this, and very instructive. Two, we have to look at the issue of cause and effect. If the cost of inflation, part of it is tariff increase in the electricity sector, and then you have increased tariff, you have collected even the minimum wage for most, even before it is approved. That calls for concern by the labor movement. And all these things you mentioned, if we are trying to check the cost of all this cost of living in the country. Now, unknown to people, this issue of tariff increase is determined by inflation and the value of the currency. NEC takes these two major variables, to decide tariff increase. Now, unknown to NEC, the same NEC, each time they increase tariff, it leads to another inflation, which within few months, they will still go back to demand for another tariff increase. And this is happening on and on and on, and there's no way, no control over it. Now, if you check, what actually constitutes the tariff which they are telling us, why is government subsidizing it? At what point is government subsidizing NEPA? Before I knew, we used to have Electricity Corporation of Nigeria, ECN, and Niger Dam Authority that were merged, to be NEPA. And then, because of this problem of challenges of distribution and generation, now we told them that if you are dividing them into 3 companies and you are creating 18 companies from one company, you are creating about 4 EDs in each company multiplied by 18. You are creating double assignments, and you are creating double expenses on the same 3,000 or 4,000 megawatts. This is the implication. So if you are talking of subsidy, what is this subsidy going into? Are there new power plants? The power plant that was built in 1968, are they buying new gadgets to construct it? What is the new power plant that is costing Nigeria all this big money? These are the challenges. Did they remove all the wires in the country and all the poles? What is this cost implication that we are talking of cost, reflective tariff? What are they all about? Is it just for the salaries of the new EDs and MDs that are scattered all over the world? We have to sit down and look at what constitutes this.
Well, you would understand all of these issues, being a former leader at the Nigeria Union of Electricity Workers. But, comrade, some are viewing the response of Labour to all of these issues from a broader perspective, and for good reason, because of the NLC's affiliation with the Labour Party. And they're saying that, even the presidential candidate of the Labour Party campaigned on some of these issues, the removal of fuel subsidy, the floating of the Naira. And so as a result of that, they're saying that, look, isn't it hypocritical for the NLC under your leadership to oppose these issues with, some would say outdated socialist approaches to how you are tackling government's policies? How would you weigh in on this, comrade?
Ordinarily, I wouldn't have responded to this question you asked now, because we are a bit fixated on this issue. And since after 2023, this Labour presidential candidate of Labour Party, I think we should move on from this. Is the presidential candidate of Labour Party, does he own NLC, or does NLC own the Labour Party? Why can't you separate? Whosoever is the presidential candidate or an official of the Labour Party must buy into our project. If he says he was going to undertake that policies, let him be elected and try such policies. So this question, I want to just show courtesy. I don't think there is any link between it. Whether a presidential candidate of a party that Labour formed will dictate for Labour. The answer is known to you and to everybody. So I think we have to leave it this way. The policies of labor, the ideology of labor is clear, and we're going to pursue it. If anybody is coming with the market ideology, he's going to have it tough with us, because that's not what we stand for.
Are you saying, comrade, that your approach would have been the same had the Labour Party won the election?
It would have been worse for anybody flying the flag of Labour Party to come and implement these policies, to come and adopt the policies of IMF and the World Bank. It would have been worse for the person. In fact, we will disown the person, he will be on his own. So I think we have to make this distinction clear.
So let's talk about what alternative you're bringing to the table, because you're going to be negotiating tomorrow when it comes to the minimum wage. The federal government has now said that the president, I should say, has now said that MDA should run on CNG-powered vehicles going forward when they are making purchases, and now the issue of electricity tariff hike and all of that. And I don't know that picketing will continue or not. Maybe you give us that information. So what exactly is Labour proposing as a sequence of events for us to have the kind of policy that would be favorable, at least to a minimal extent, to the Nigerian worker? Because it's not just resisting policy of government, you need to bring something to the table.
Yeah, when you are invited to the table, you bring so many things to the table. Unfortunately, the issue of CNG, which I'm happy now that the president has shown interest, was brought by Labour. In fact, at the first meeting we had with government representatives, we were asking what was the meaning of CNG, and we explained to them. And we tried to explain to them that if you had waited for us to introduce the CNG policy, and for it to start working, the effect of subsidy removal wouldn't have been noticed by Nigerians. And I'm happy that Mr. President is showing a lot of interest in that regard. And if that happens, the cost of living will come down drastically. The cost of transportation, the cost of feeding, so much cost of even fueling our vehicles, it will affect, some of the issues we raised. That if the cost and inflation are reduced, now the demand, by labor will be a different thing. But if the costs continue to go up, we don't seem to have option in this regard. So I think that will be a welcome development. Now, if we have a real and robust energy policy, where the tariff, is sensitive to the cost of living, sensitive to the wage of the people in such an environment, and where you have availability of electricity, if there is availability, it will equally drag down the issue of the idea of affordability. If we bring this into to be a policy of government, the demand by labor and the minimum wage will not be as high as we are looking at.
Clearly, something needs to shift, and we need to start thinking out of the box, because we find ourselves in a very tough situation as a people and as a nation. Well, some will say it's global, but my point here is this. Whatever decision is made eventually regarding the wages would need to trickle down. There will need to be some regularization, even for the public sector. So believe it or not, the public sector is also looking to see how this will play out. But I want to ask you a sort of personal question. If a decision were to be made on minimum wage and it's agreed upon by the tripartite committee, let's say, hypothetically speaking, 650,000 naira, if you were to employ someone, maybe someone working with you, would you be able to pay, and would you be willing to pay the minimum wage that is eventually agreed upon? 615, 400, whatever the case is.
Well, there are employers in Nigeria that are paying 1 million, whether public or private. The issue of wage is determined by a lot of factors. But as a matter of law, there are people that fall within the Minimum Wage Act, and the law permits it. Whether it is people that employ 50 people, people that employ 20 people, as the case may be. They may not be, hypothetically speaking, the way you put it, you employ one person, you pay him this. However, the issue of wage payment, especially by private individuals, is dependent on the agreement at the point of negotiation and the point of hiring, on what you can pay and what the person is willing to accept, based equally on his expertise, based on job evaluation and job analysis. If the employer knows that he's hiring somebody who is going to make inputs that will make him to produce about, will have a profit of 1.5 million, and you decide to hire the person at 1 million rate, so be it. So, but what I'm telling you is that there are rules that involve when you employ and what you pay, not actually, can you pay this amount? If I have a business that I will employ an expert who will make that business, to run, and I make profit on it, why wouldn't I?
So you're well and able to pay. If it's 615,000 naira agreed upon, you will pay it as minimum wage to someone you employ as well.
I hire somebody to do a job, and like I said, there's job evaluation and job analysis. I know that this is the job this person is going to do. This is what is going to come out of it. I will pay whatever amount I agree with the person.
Well, comrade, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And we're glad that we're having this conversation. It's important to lay all the cards on the table so everybody will understand. So I'll be following to see the outcome of that meeting. I understand it will be tomorrow. Am I correct?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Right.
15th.
All right. So we'll do well to keep in touch. And of course, we're supporting the Labour and the Nigerian state in all of this. Thank you so much for your time, Comrade Joe Ajero, President of the NLC. Wish you the very best.
Yes.
We'll take a moment now, and when we return, hey, the AMVCA has not gone. It is still right here with us, and we're hosting one of the big winners of the night. You'd love to see him on your screen. A lot of people call him a breath of fresh air. Yeah, pun intended here. So stay with us right here on the Morning Brief and find out who our next guest is.
Sunday was movie's biggest night, and there were big winners of that night. And big congratulations to everybody, by the way. If you're nominated, if you got is it plaque now, or the trophy, or the award, whatever it is called, it was a big night for a lot of people, but especially the team from the Breath of Life, which is why we're going to review the AMVCA here and take a look at how that night went and why some people emerged such big winners of the night. And one of the big winners has joined us on the program today. The one and only Chim Ize.
Thank you so much for having me.
So
good to have you.
Thank you.
Some people think you just showed up. So let's give them the background.
Okay.
2020, you got your recognition and nomination for Future Awards Africa.
Yes.
For Prize for Acting. The AMA also, you got a nomination in the category of Young Promising Actor.
Yes.
You got nomination in 2023. Africa Magic AMVCA for Best Actor in a Leading Role.
Yes.
For Choke.
Yes.
Is it Choke or Choke?
Choke.
Choke.
Come on.
And then there was another movie you did. In fact, when we saw you win at the AMVCA as a Trailblazer, by the way, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
For winning the Trailblazer
Thank you.
award. Now you are actor, model, newly turned filmmaker. And we're super excited for you. But I want to start from where on that stage that night you made one of the most emotional speeches. I want to find out what exactly happened, what triggered those statements you made, because I can remember almost word for word some of the things you said.
I honestly didn't know what I was saying till I watched the clip, because it's the Trailblazer. You don't get nominated, so you don't even know. So I was there at the award to support Breath of Life because we had one of the highest nominations.
Actually, the highest.
Yes, the highest
everything.
Yes. And when my name was called, I was in shock. And I think the words that I said has been what I have lived by growing up being an actor in Nollywood. It's not been easy, and I've been someone who attends audition a lot, and I think it's sort of just paid off. I've never believed in maybe having somebody there or begging for roles. I just like to show up and show out. And I just wanted to encourage young people and young upcoming actors to always go for auditions whenever they have the opportunity to.
I remember you said, "My name is Chim Ize Imo. I am an actor. See you at work."
Yes.
What informed that line before I go to that?
I just wanted people to know who I am and what I do, and let's work at the end of the day, because it feels great to I felt seen that day. I felt seen, and I thought I was on stage where the whole world was watching, and it's the best time to tell them who I am, just in case they do not know.
I'm sure my colleagues have lots of questions for you.
The caller.
because I have a lot to talk.
Well, I'm just curious still about your speech and particularly about the emotion that you expressed. I want to know what was going through your mind. Is it that you never thought that you could achieve that feat? And, it was a reason that you were quite close to tears.
I schooled in Bauchi State, and I would take night buses to Lagos for auditions. Something I kept doing almost every time. I've even encountered robbers on the road, and that moment just sort of sealed every struggle that I have gone through. So it was so much. Remember, like being on that stage, like I watched the AMVCAs from my house, like all the time. And being on that stage and winning that award was just like a you got this, you got this. So and I'm very in touch with my emotions. People call me a crying baby, so I didn't know. It was when I was watching the clips I was like, oh my god, I was ugly crying. Why?
But congratulations, I'm sure it was worth every moment.
It was. Thank you.
Absolutely. It was on Saturday night.
Yes.
Right. Jeffrey.
Oh, Sunday. I said, sir. I said Sunday.
Jeffrey has been
Saturday.
He's been reliving AMVCA Sunday, Monday.
My apologies.
I kind of wants it to happen again, by the way. He called today night, tonight.
My apologies. I forgot it was Saturday.
I mean, it's the weekend, so
yeah.
Thank you very much. But would like to know your story. You've given us a peek into it. So looking at you, a lot of people would imagine, so you have a face that is likable, relatable. People see you act and it just, there's some people you are watching and you think this person is acting, right? You're like, this person is reading the script. There's some people you watch acting and you just forget that this is a movie, right? And you have one of such faces.
Thank you.
I don't know if you grew it, if you
that's a big compliment for an actor.
No, it is. So you forget you're watching a movie, you just get sucked into it. I've seen you in commercials as well. You've done TV ads as well. So we know that face. But we need to know your story, how you got to this point. So is it something that just came to you as a result of life's experiences? They would say, well, life made me this, so there's not taking it away. Or it was something that you had to just groom and say, I'll keep working at this till I become that person. And you've said it, you're going back to work, so it's not as though you've gotten anywhere literally. So talk to us about that experience.
I started acting at the age of 6. I joined my church drama group, His Majesty Drama Ministry, and that's when I fell in love with acting.
Church boy.
Yes, I started in church. Yes, and that's when I fell in love with acting. But I also knew I wanted to study science.
Okay.
So I studied applied ecology at Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University. And people were like, no, you should go into theater. You should go into theater. I never wanted to study acting, but I wanted to be an actor. I knew. So I said, you know what? Let me learn what science is about, because I'm a very curious person. I like to know things. And when I'm done, I'll come back to this, because this is my life. And that was what happened. So while I was still in school, I was going for auditions, and people took me very unserious in my department. Like, look at this boy. But I mean, graduated with a second class upper.
Oh, sure.
And, so, and then I applied for the next movie star reality TV, and I was the first runner up. Oh. And that was when it started.
That's Sola Fadjubira.
Yes. Yes. I was first runner up in my year, and then I moved to Lagos. As God would have it, I got posted to serve in Lagos, and I started going for auditions from then, and we're here now.
Amazing. Great to see, because I know Sola pretty well. I worked with him before, so that's why I remember Next Movie Star. But let's get to, because when I watched that movie, let's walk through how, when you saw the script and what you had to deal with, because you had to deal with a lot.
Yes,
a lot. I've seen the movie. Tell me how you see scripts, internalize it, and then interpret it.
When the script was sent to me, when I got the role, that's another story. But when
you tell us that story as well.
When I saw the script, when I read the script, and I mean, this might sound cliche, but this is one of the first times that I cried reading the script. And I remember calling Bibi Shashori or texting him. I'm like, I can't believe I just shed a tear at the end of the script. And it now made sense when it was being premiered at Afri. The whole hall was bawling in tears, and I knew, God, this is going to be a great project. It just felt good. I felt connected to it, And I was so happy that the director gave me everything I needed to be Elijah. Because I made some requests. I'd like to hit the gym. I'd like to train underwater because I had scenes underwater. And the director said he wanted like a straight 50 seconds underwater. But
did you do that in real? For real?
Yes. Whoa. Well, before the shoot, I practiced. I could do 2 minutes underwater before we started shooting. So he gave me everything I needed to be, Elijah, and I'm just grateful to him. And I got into the character.
Well, it must have taken a whole lot of from you, getting into character and playing that role. But let's talk about Breath of Life.
Yeah.
It carted away 5 awards, right?
Yes.
5 or 6?
Well, yeah, mine 6.
6 actually.
Put that in the mix. Yes,
it has to be there in the mix.
Yes,
6 awards actually.
That was the harvest from this year's AMVCA. Yes. But the comparisons are being made, and without referring to it now, without trying to make comparisons or heighten it, but for good reason. Some are saying that, look, let Breath of Life breathe because it towers head and shoulders above the movie that made 1 billion at the box office last year. But what do you think is particularly responsible for the less popularity that Breath of Life had? That didn't cause it not to get that much attention as the other movie. I'm trying not to mention the name of the other movie.
Right. Like the director of Breath of Life said, Baby Shashure, he would say, I can't cast for a commercial film. And if you watch Breath of Life, the actors are not like A-list actors you see there. The people you probably do not even know. And the director said he doesn't know how to cast for cinema. And that's why he doesn't do cinema that much. I auditioned for Breath of Life with probably like 1,000 people.
What?
Yes.
1,000 people.
There was a closed audition and there was an open audition. So he auditions for his roles and he doesn't need to know you. If he sees what you have, he casts you, whether you're commercial or not. And I think that's why Breath of Life people didn't know so much about it, because it was not a commercial film. It's safe to say it's a faith-based film, and it's really hard to have a faith-based film win so much, especially in this part of the world, And I think this AMVCA it's back on Prime as number 2, as at yesterday. And that's what the award has done. People now are like, what is this movie? Let's see. Oh my God, how did we not know a movie like this existed? So yeah.
Fantastic. I know that you had to shoot a lot in Ibadan.
Yes.
They're your state capital. And it was beautiful to see. I grew up in Ibadan.
Oh, amazing.
So, I was just walking my way through. I know that area. I know that place. But then at some point, I'm like, is this Ibadan? So it was amazing to see what was done with the location. I mean, we can't talk about the backstory.
Yes.
How some things were made to look like what it was, and it wasn't what it was. And you're like, that's just brilliant. So I want you to speak about working on that movie in that team. I'd seen some, BTS, of course, but doing that movie, did you guys know at that point that we're onto something big? On the one hand, is that like the most intense set you've had to work on? I'd like you to just walk us through the experience on set, because a lot of people don't know what it takes to make movies. Just think you guys go backstage and then come back with the movie, it's out.
We were in Ibadan for about 5 weeks. We shot some parts in Lagos, but we were like 90% in Ibadan for 5 weeks. Most of the set you see was built in Ibadan in a warehouse, because that's how we wanted. BB is such a great guy. He wanted what he wanted, and if we have to build it, then let's build it. So most of the houses you see, it's dated back. They couldn't get exactly, so we built sets in Ibadan, and we would.
Amazing.
Yes, and I remember we built close to a warehouse, and we couldn't film during the day because the noise.
Right.
So when they close, we come from 7 p.m. and we shoot to 7 a.m. That's what we're doing, so we can have good sound. And that was not the plan. So our sleep was distorted.
You were in a different time zone in Nigeria.
Different time zone. I know how it is to sleep during the day. So you can't even sleep during the day when you're supposed to be sleeping. You have to be awake and come back to set. And I did have a feeling we're up to something good. The team was amazing. Eku Edo, who is the producer, hired the best. And I know people would always say this, I don't hire people I can afford. That's what he always says. I can't hire people I can afford. You have to be so expensive that he likes to go for the best, and he actually got the best costume, Daniel, makeup artists, cinematography, the actors are the best. You might not know them, but they are the best.
Oh, we know.
Let me be your PA.
No. We don't know. Come on, we know them. We don't know them.
We know them. We've seen your name there. I forgot. My wife was the one that reminded me that he's the one in Nimba. Like, oh, really? So, on Breath of Life, which is your favorite scene? I got a couple in my head.
Favorite scene,
or maybe give us 3.
Ooh.
Let me save you the trouble of 1.
Are you going to mention the romantic scene?
Look, every scene in Breath of Life was you all didn't see half of what we shot in Breath of Life, just so you know. Like half of the film didn't make it to the final cut.
Don't worry, keep going.
A lot was done that made it to my favorite that we didn't get to see, and I was so mad. I'm like, why did you take the scene out? You know. But
we're waiting for your top 3.
Yeah, my top 3. My top 3 is, the first is the most challenging scene, which is the underwater scene, because I was in the pool. I was in this location for like 9 hours. I was in the water for like 9 hours, from like 11 a.m. to like 8 p.m. But it made only 8 seconds.
9 hours.
I can give you the other footage.
How did you survive underwater for 9 hours?
No, not underwater. In the pool.
In the pool.
Because the moment I come out and I try to get in, I get so cold. So I had to maintain the temperature of the water. That's what I was advised. So they just pass me a coffee in the pool. I drink, I stay, wait, try getting shots. Yeah, that's what filmmakers go through. But I think that's one of my exciting scene, because I challenged myself to hold my breath. I didn't think I could do it, but I challenged myself. I liked that scene, and I liked the scene with Genevieve and I, where Elijah had the major attack, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, okay, it's the attack part. Okay.
Yes, I'll tell you why. What you saw, what we did, was not how that was not what the script said.
Beautiful.
We improvised, and the director was like, These children, is this what I wrote? But I like it. I'll keep it. So I like that scene as well. And my scene with Uncle Wale, who is an amazing guy, where he was so mad that I was leaving him. And it was such an emotional scene. I remember finishing that scene and going back and crying. It just felt like someone who had believed in God, hating God, and seeing someone believing in God and saying, why do you believe in this man who has done all these things that he has to me? So those 3 scenes are like my top.
I think the scene that hits my head the most. There's a scene we're waiting for. You didn't make the cut.
Tell me.
I was looking for
the romantic scene.
The romantic scene. But besides, I also like that.
I was just asking. I'm a journalist. Yeah.
Oh, really? Why is it difficult to believe you?
Like your top.
Oh, tell me, what scene is that?
What's
like really?
So there were lots of scenes. Yeah. There was the emotional scene. There was the anger scene.
Yeah.
There was the plate swinging scene.
Yeah.
And then there was a romantic scene.
Yeah.
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 So it didn't make it to your top.
I mean, maybe fourth position. I gave this top 2 based on whatever emotional sentiment I had with the scene, how challenging they were for me, and how I felt filming them, yeah.
You're a man of strong emotions.
God, stop putting pressure on the guy.
Did you develop a relationship with Genevieve?
Oh, Genevieve has been my person. Her very first film in Nollywood, we did it together. It never saw the light of day, by the way. Years ago in Enugu. That was when she flew from the UK down to Enugu first time. And I came from Bauchi State School with my bag. She would always tell me that your red bag and your sunglasses, I can never forget. We met on set. We did this fantastic series, which never saw the light of day. And since then, we've been working together. We've been trying to help ourselves grow. She's like one of my favorite people in the industry.
Because when people meet on movie scenes, and they, cast.
Anyway, I know what he's trying to do.
Like Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of situation.
I'm just asking.
I know.
So maybe there are replays, in real life.
We would find out.
But amazing conversation. I'm having so much fun. But tell us now, Chim Ize, what did the streamlining of the categories, for this year's nominations to a jury voting, what did it do, in terms of quality of the outcome of the awards. And then for those that, were also set aside or retained for the public to vote on, how did he enhance the quality of thespians that emerged winners for this year?
I think it had an amazing impact this year. And I mean, I see people review and saying this year's AMVCA is probably the best or one of the best, because people who didn't have, because I mean, when you make everything for the fans to vote, if you don't have so much of those fans and you probably think you should have, you don't get to win, but this year a couple of jury who we do not know saw every content and made a decision, and it was amazing to see people who probably would not have won, not anytime soon, to see them win. And people said it was actually one of the best AMVCAs, and shout out to the entire team of multi-choice and the AMVCA.
So as we're gonna wind down, what's next for Chim Ize?
So much. I believe in God. He has always held my hand all through my journey. I just produced recently my first feature, Strawberry Chini. It got a selection at the Essence Black Film Festival.
Strawberry
Chini with Genevieve, actually.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's my co-star in it.
Genevieve, it's been a while.
Yes. Genevieve.
Oh, the same Genevieve.
So you see why I'm going on and on about that.
I mean, we have a great. I mean, we have an undeniable great on-screen chemistry, and I wanted to do something small, and I just thought it has to be her. Come on, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, let's do it. We shot in a couple of days, and yeah. Wow.
Who did this?
Yeah.
The person needs to get a raise.
Does your pastor now?
Great on-screen chemistry, by the way.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's going to the US for the Black Essence Film Festival this July.
Beautiful.
I'm very excited about it.
Fantastic. I just want to also touch on something important, because there's a support system, for what you do. People see you in front, but you obviously behind you is obviously a support system. So for you, is it family? Is it your colleagues? How do you get to keep doing what you do? Because we all need a support system.
I'm grateful to my family. They're very supportive of my work. It wasn't like that initially. I like dragging my mom especially. I'm like, you all said I should be a medical doctor. You told me, what am I doing? Is this sustainable? And it's funny when I started acting, my mom would go, I know you love acting, but get a real job. This is a job.
So acting is a real job.
It's a real job.
But should it be your plan A to Z, or you should have a plan B?
It's my plan A to Z.
Oh, really?
Yes, because when you start having plan Bs and Cs and D, you don't give in so much to your plan A. That's what I thought. I've never had a 9 to 5.
All right.
This has been my life, and I'm happy with what is happening now.
Yeah, we're happy for you, Trailblazer, because it resonated with a lot of people who may have been doing a lot for many years and nobody seemed to notice what they're doing. And then eventually, boom, it happens. And if people feel like they came out from nowhere, I can understand that moment. And great work you do. Congratulations to you and Genevieve again. I think she hasn't gotten her flowers yet, but I'm happy she finally got it.
Yes.
That's nice. So congratulations to all of you from the Breath of Life team.
Thank you.
You literally took everything. Best director, supporting, Trailblazer. What did you move?
Best actress too.
Best film, yes.
The biggest.
Yes.
Chim Ize, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys. That's just about it on the program for today. It's been an amazing journey. So we will continue to say support Nollywood and our music, because that's the only place we don't talk politics. We talk unity. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeff Rozongo.
And we will continue to return here because presentation is our life, like Chim Ize. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
And we hope we've been able to prove to you yet again that Nigeria is the best and most blessed nation on earth. I mean, look at all of the talents we have. I'm Kayode Okikulu. Keep that in mind and have a great day.